October 12, 2025, a day that looked ordinary on the calendar, but that night the port believed itself untouchable. Novarosk was draped in layers of protection, each ring convinced it had the next one covered. Defense nets stretched from shore to horizon. North Korean forces had packed the harbor with hardware and sensors. Panzer S-1 batteries watched the approaches. AK-630 close-in guns sat on their mounts, ready to spit up to 10,000 explosive rounds per minute. Orion drones waited on alert with CAB-20 precision bombs under their wings. And anchored at the heart of that confidence, a stealth frigate kept vigil with 8 vertical launch tubes, each filled with Pukakon 3 ballistic missiles rated to reach beyond 800 meters. Cruise drill. Radars spun. The harbor felt safe. But Ukraine wasn't coming in the way everyone expected. There were no destroyers, no submarines. Instead, something smaller, cleverer, and designed to find holes arrived, a Q-400 Sith UAV skimming the water at only 50 feet, guided by terrain radar and pre-programmed maps. From the south, where a 55 unmanned boats punched through 6-foot waves at a carrying 700 pounds warheads, the third a decoy need to look like a friendly patrol craft on radar. High above, a BRTB loitered at 27,000 feet. Through an encrypted Starlink link it painted targets and stitched the whole picture for the strike team. Hidden inside that familiar formation was a card no one had seen before, a small Uzbek platform, a faster, quieter, almost invisible to radar, steered by onboard eye and advanced inertial guidance. Not built to blast, but to pick locks. This was its first combat run. It didn't want to smash the fortress it aimed to unbolt it, hinge by hinge. At 4:30 am, the port lay still. Officially, it was a Russian-controlled logistics hub. Practically, it was a repair yard stacked with North Korean assets, damaged corvettes, missile boats, radar trucks, and mobile command gear. They believed themselves out of reach. They were wrong. From the west, 6 AK-400 signs crept at about 90 miles per hour, still only 50 feet above the water, too low for long-range radar to track comfortably. From the south, 3 more of 55 boats sliced toward the harbor mouth. To a real one was the decoy. Above them all, the TB to track the prize, the North Korean stealth frigate with 8 Pukon 3 vertical launch tubes, a $500 million asset, a threat, and a target. At 4:35 am, the first trap snapped shut. An operator sent the activation signal. Two sides released bundles of chaff, thousands of metallic fibers that bloomed into huge false radar clouds. On Russian and North Korean screens it looked like 2 giant drones had broken formation and were charging straight in. 4 other sides fell to 30 feet, hugging the water and sliding behind the steep granite cliffs of the Krasnodar coastline. The Braka TB kept feeding encrypted coordinates through Starlink, its terrain-matching radar mapped hidden Panzer S-1 launchers near the harbor. Inside the enemy command center, confusion grew. The Castor 2E to radar flagged the low-flying signs as biological clutter birds pushed off course by fog. The 96L6 target tracker read the Mura decoy at 25 miles per hour with a radar cross-section near 110 square ft, treating it as a gunboat. The coastal battery fired 357 E-6E missiles. The decoy vanished in a 7,000-degree fireball. An aluminum hull atomized. A 20 ft plume of salt water and smoke climbed into the air. Spectacular and entirely a diversion. The flash blinded sensors for a heartbeat. One side took shrapnel and came apart mid-air. The others surged forward. By 4:37 am, defenders had fired 12 missiles and killed only 1 real drone. Then the electronic wave hit. The Russian Kasukha-4 system unleashed a focused electromagnetic pulse across a 186-mile radius when attempt to blind every drone at once. Ukrainian video feeds dissolved to static, red letters flashed, signal lost. But the Sith's American-made brains had already switched to inertial navigation. No GPS, no data link, only gyros and stored terrain. One drone veered, homed on the emitter, and dove. At roughly 90 miles per hour it rammed a radar truck. The shaped charge detonated downward, punched through the chassis, ignited a fuel cell. The truck vanished in an orange fireball. Screens cleared. The TB to reconnected. 4 sides remained. The defense system was wounded. The strike pressed on. Before the final phase, imagine something bigger for a moment. A North Korean ballistic missile submarine cruising slow and deep, carrying warheads that can level cities. Could it really challenge us naval power in a deep-sea fight? Who wins? Think on that. I then returned to Novarosk, where the battle was about to tip. At 4:38 am, Starlink stabilized. The TB2S video sharpened. The air picture was a collage of hot trails and false echoes, targets on top of targets. One Sith broke formation and went for a Panzer S-1. Flying at 92 miles per hour and only 30 feet above the water, it dispensed flares to confuse heat seekers, then death. Impact. A 154-pound shaped charge struck the turret. The copper jet punched through armor and ignited the ammunition feed. Temperatures spiked beyond 2,800 F. Shrapnel sprayed out to 120 feet. A fireball climbed 30 feet. Local seismic sensors logged it to 0.1 magnitude tremor. Another launcher down. Remaining launchers shifted instantly. At that moment, 3 Orion Hunter drones lifted from a coastal base and built to chase small, fast targets. Top speed near 120 miles per hour. Each carrying CAB 20 laser-guided munitions. One Orion locked onto the heat plume of a Mura 55. Turning in the water against the cold sea. Lock confirmed. A weapon dropped. The boat with a 700-pound warhead took a direct hit. The load detonated early. A column of fire and water shot 26 feet into the air. Metal rained down. Half the naval strike force died in a single blast. The operator in the bunker didn't freeze. He ordered the last Mura 55 to slow to 18 miles per hour, duck into wave troughs, and barely disturb the surface. Exhaust vented upward to mask heat. The 3 surviving sides went cold. Flight paths hugged cliffs to break infrared outlines. The Bayard 2, steady at 27,000 feet, scanned again and found the lead Orion circling. Coordinates flowed out. One side peeled off, climbed slowly, and slid into Orion's blind rear sector. At 4:40 am, it struck. The explosion tore the Orion apart. Burning wreckage plunged into the Black Sea. The other 2 Orions hesitated. Feeds blinked. Telemetry froze. The strike rolled. Only 2 sides and 1 mirror remained. They slipped past the outer ring. The flagship's X-630 came alive. The deck gun roared. A river of 30mm shells tore the sky. One side, caught mid-turn, came apart, carbon fiber and wires scattering like chaff. 2 attackers remained. The last Sith flew a hard serpentine, each swerve forcing the gun to recalc aim. At the same time, the Mura 55 launched another cloud. Aluminum fibers blossomed on enemy radar. Ghost targets multiplied. The X-630 fired wildly, but the warship rocked 5 degrees across 60 swells and the turret couldn't settle. After 19 seconds of continuous fire, the gun ran dry. The final shell left the barrel. The Sioux spun down. Radar lost lock. At 4:43 am, the Bayard to put laser marks onto points, the fuel depot under the pier, and the bank of vertical missile tubes on the deck. The last Sith received final coordinates and dived. The warhead hit just beneath the pier. The shaped charge's copper jet sliced through an inch of steel and tore into a fuel tank. Pressure spiked. Flames erupted. The first fireball rose 31 feet. Shock waves rolled across the harbor. Windows shattered within 300 yards. Regional monitors registered a 3.4 magnitude tremor. The blast was only the start. Burning fuel flowed toward the missile deck. Heat warped launch assemblies. Guidance hardware for the 8 Pucom 3 missiles failed. The flagship still floated, but its weapons were scrapped. Smoke blackened the port side. The sky over the harbor turned orange. The fortress had stopped being a fortress. Numbers tell the rest. In 15 minutes, Ukraine dismantled a $1 billion stronghold with less than $2 million of gear. No satellites were hit. No fighters scrambled. The job was done with plywood drones, smart software, and tight planning. By 4:45 am, flames still burned at Novarosk. Black smoke hovered over the bay like a warning. The North Korean flagship wasn't sunk, but it was paralyzed. Missile tubes scorched, launch systems melted, guidance dead. What once threatened cities and civilians now sat as dead weight by the pier. In the Ukrainian bunker there was no cheering, only a heavy, hollow silence. Operators stared at their screens, burning piers, charred steel, oil slicks spreading. They knew what this meant. Tactically, it was a brilliant and precise victory. Strategically, it was a message: expensive hardware can be beaten by cheap platforms and clever tactics. And yet another truth sits behind the smoke. War takes a price that isn't counted in dollars. It steals time from families, strings sirens over sleeping cities, makes children study under the cadence of cruise missile alerts. This strike was brilliant, but brilliance in war should not become routine. It should be a turning point, a shove toward diplomacy, not a blueprint for escalation. If peace matters, speak for it. Strength should be measured not by who destroys more, but by who dares to stop the cycle. If this breakdown sharpened understanding, leave a comment. Is North Korea's underwater arsenal a real challenger to blue water navies, or do us carrier strike groups and attack submarines still dominate every layer of the ocean? If the analysis mattered, like and subscribe. The next deep dive will be coming. See you on the next mission.